They say karma doesn't miss anyone, but I didn't believe that until the day my world fell apart. My name is Angelina, and I thought I had the perfect life, a loving husband, a beautiful home, and dreams that stretched beyond the horizon. But one message, just one, shattered everything I thought was real. If you're watching this right now, tell me, do you believe karma truly returns what we give to others? Comment your country and time. Let's see who's still awake when the truth finally unfolds. You're watching Karma's Call. Stay till the end, because you'll see what happens when betrayal meets destiny. It started with little things, late night calls, quiet whispers, and a password change. My husband, Daniel, used to tell me everything. We laughed over silly things, shared our secrets, our dreams. But suddenly, he became distant. He said work was getting harder, that the company needed him more. But deep down, I knew, it wasn't the office keeping him away. One night, I woke up and found him sitting in the living room, smiling at his phone. I asked who it was. He said, just a client, Angie. Go back to sleep. But the way his voice trembled, told me he was lying. The next morning, I tried to brush it off. Maybe I was overthinking. Maybe it was just stress. Maybe love really does fade quietly, without warning. But when he forgot my birthday for the first time in 10 years, that's when my heart whispered, something was terribly wrong. Tell me in the comments, would you confront your partner right away? Or wait for proof? That morning, Daniel left early, said he had an out-of-town meeting. But I noticed something strange. He wore his best shirt, the one he saved for special dinners, not business trips. Something inside me snapped. I told myself, no more pretending. I deserved to know the truth. So, I followed him. My hands were shaking as I started the car. I kept a distance, careful not to be seen. He drove across the city to a small cafe. And then, she walked in. A young woman, maybe 10 years younger than me. Bright smile, soft laughter. The kind of woman Daniel used to tell me I reminded him of when we first met. I watched them from the car, how he looked at her, how his hand brushed hers across the table. My heart felt like it was breaking in slow motion. He wasn't at a meeting. He was at a date, with her. And the man who once promised me forever was now promising someone else his tomorrow. I sat there for an hour, just watching. Every laugh, every touch, every lie that now made sense. When I got home that night, I didn't cry. I just sat in silence, replaying every moment we shared, every "I love you" that now felt fake. Comment below, what would you do if you caught the person you love betraying you? That night, I didn't sleep. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to the clock ticking, each second louder than the last. My mind wasn't crying anymore. It was calculating. I realized I didn't want confrontation. I wanted justice. Quiet, patient, precise. For weeks, I pretended everything was normal. I cooked his favorite meals, smiled when he smiled, and kissed him goodnight like nothing had changed. But every gesture had a purpose. Every "I love you" was another brick in the wall I was building around him. I started gathering proof, not for a fight, but for freedom. Bank statements. Messages. Late-night receipts. I discovered he wasn't just cheating, he was using my name to fund his new life. Credit cards, loans, all tied to me. My world tilted again. The betrayal wasn't just emotional, it was financial, deep, cruel, and deliberate. I began saving quietly. Every penny I could hide went into a secret account. I called an old friend, a lawyer who once said, "If you ever need to disappear, call me first." I never thought I'd actually need him. Day by day, my plan grew stronger. I stopped asking questions. I stopped caring where Daniel went. Because soon, he wouldn't even notice when I was gone. One evening, he came home late, smelling of perfume that wasn't mine. He smiled like he still believed his lies were working. I smiled back. But this time, my smile meant something else entirely. It meant, I'm ready. The next morning, I woke up early and brewed his favorite coffee, black with a hint of cinnamon. The same way he liked it when he first fell in love with me. He came to the kitchen, kissed my forehead, and said, "You're perfect, you know that?" I smiled. But in my heart, I whispered, "You have no idea what's coming." I started becoming the woman he thought he could control again, gentle, quiet, obedient. I asked him about his work, his meetings, his travel plans. He believed every word, every look. Because guilt blinds people. And he thought I was still blind too. Every time he left the house, I copied files from his laptop. Every time he went to shower, I backed up his messages. I found conversations, expensive hotel bookings, gifts, even private photos. Everything I needed to destroy him was now sitting in a small hidden folder on my drive, labeled Memories. I wasn't doing this for revenge anymore. I was doing it for closure, to take back the power he stole from me. At night, I'd stare at him sleeping beside me and think, "You taught me how to be strong by breaking me." And now, I was stronger than he'd ever imagined. A few weeks later, I told him I wanted to invest in something together, a property, maybe. He liked the idea instantly, greedy as ever. So, I let him believe he was in charge. We set up meetings, signed documents, opened accounts, all under his name this time. My lawyer friend guided me quietly, step by step. Every signature Daniel made was another thread tightening around his neck. I said nothing. I just watched him dig his own hole, smiling all the while. The more confident he grew, the more careless he became. And that's exactly what I needed. Daniel's confidence was growing like wildfire. He walked differently now, chest out, phone always in hand, smiling at messages he tried to hide. He thought he was untouchable. He didn't realize every secret he sent was already in my hands. I noticed the little things first, the way he hummed while texting, the cologne he wore that wasn't the one I gifted him. But instead of breaking down, I took notes. Every lie, every late night, every whisper. Because I knew the right moment was coming, and when it did, I wanted it to hurt. One evening, I walked into the study while he was on a call. He quickly minimized a window on his laptop and smiled nervously. "Just work stuff," he said. I leaned in, kissed his cheek, and whispered, "I trust you." He smiled, relieved. And that was the first time I realized how easy it was to manipulate someone who thought they were smarter than you. A few days later, I transferred a large sum of money into our joint account. Daniel thought it was my savings for the property project. What he didn't know was, that account was being monitored. Every withdrawal, every transfer, every payment was legally traceable. I wanted his downfall to be clean, undeniable, and irreversible. The affair continued. And I let it. Because ending it too soon would have given him a chance to fix things, and I wanted him too far gone to ever recover. Slowly, his lies started crossing paths. One night, he accidentally called me by her name. Another night, he showed up late to dinner, smelling like cheap perfume and panic. I just smiled and said, "Rough day?" He nodded, unaware that his world was about to collapse. I started preparing the final phase, documents, evidence, accounts, messages. Everything organized, color-coded, ready. My lawyer called it the silent storm. A moment when the truth hits so hard, it doesn't even need to be spoken. I wasn't scared anymore. For the first time in years, I felt powerful. And when Daniel kissed me goodnight that evening, I whispered to myself, tomorrow, everything changes. The next morning, everything looked normal. The same kitchen light, the same smell of coffee, the same polite smile from Daniel as he grabbed his briefcase. But I knew, this was the beginning of his end. I had timed everything perfectly. The joint account he thought we shared was under investigation. My lawyer had already submitted every piece of proof, the stolen money, the forged documents, even his affair linked to financial fraud. All I had to do now was wait for the storm to break. Around noon, Daniel called me. His voice was calm, confident. "I'll be late tonight," he said. "Work dinner again?" I asked softly. "Yeah, something like that," he laughed. And that laugh, that arrogant, heartless sound, was the last time I'd ever hear it without consequence. By evening, I put on a calm face and drove to the restaurant he mentioned. From a distance, through the glass window, I saw him, laughing, holding her hand, toasting with expensive wine. My fingers tightened around the steering wheel. But this time, there were no tears. Only quiet satisfaction. Because I knew that at that exact moment, his world outside was already crumbling. His office accountant had just received a call from the authorities. His name was under financial investigation. His accounts, frozen. His reputation, under review. I watched him, clueless and happy, sipping his drink, completely unaware that the life he'd built on lies was dissolving underneath him. When I finally drove away, I didn't look back. I didn't need to. The universe, or maybe karma, was already doing the rest for me. That night, I slept peacefully for the first time in years. The silence in my house felt clean. And when Daniel's call came at 3 a.m., panicked, desperate, I didn't answer. I simply smiled and whispered, "It's starting." The next morning, the calls wouldn't stop. Unknown numbers, messages, emails flooding Daniel's phone. He sat at the table, pale, sweating, his hands shaking as he scrolled through his screen. "They froze my accounts," he muttered, almost to himself. "The company's under audit. Someone reported financial misconduct." I looked at him calmly, pretending to be confused. "That's strange," I said softly, sipping my tea. "You've always been so careful with money." He looked up, suspicion flickering in his eyes, but guilt silenced him. For the next few days, everything spiraled. His company distanced itself from him, his clients stopped answering calls, and even his so-called girlfriend began ghosting him. I watched him fall apart, bit by bit, every ounce of arrogance draining from his face. At night, he sat on the couch staring blankly at the wall, muttering things like, "It's all a mistake, someone set me up." And I wanted to say, yes, someone did. Someone who trusted you once. But I stayed silent, because the beauty of karma is that it doesn't need witnesses. One evening, his phone rang again. I could hear the voice from across the room, the woman he betrayed me for. She was yelling, crying, accusing him of ruining her life. Apparently, he'd promised her a new home, one bought with my money, and now that the accounts were frozen, she was being investigated too. He threw his phone against the wall, shattered it to pieces, and screamed. Then he looked at me, exhausted, hollow, and whispered, "Angelina, please. I need your help." I met his eyes for the first time in weeks. There was no anger in me anymore, no sadness, no love. Just peace. "Help?" I said softly. "You mean like how you helped me when you lied, cheated, and stole?" He didn't answer. He couldn't. I stood up, walked to the door, and said quietly, "You taught me that love is a game. Now you can finally see what losing feels like." I left the room without looking back. Behind me, the sound of his quiet sobs filled the air. A sound that once would have broken me. But now, it set me free. Days turned into weeks, and the chaos around Daniel only deepened. His company dropped him completely. His so-called friends disappeared. The woman he betrayed me with filed a case against him, claiming he'd ruined her reputation and finances. Every bridge he ever crossed was burning, and I didn't need to light a single match. I watched from a distance. Every message he sent, every apology he tried to form, felt empty. I had moved out quietly one morning, leaving only a small note on the kitchen table. It said, "I once believed in forever. Now, I just believe in peace." He called me dozens of times that day, then hundreds. But I never picked up. I didn't need to hear the voice that once sweetly lied to me. My silence was the loudest answer he would ever get. Meanwhile, I started over. I moved to a small coastal town, somewhere quiet, where no one knew my story. The sound of the waves became my therapy, my new rhythm. I took a job at a local art studio, painting again, something I had given up years ago to support his dreams. One evening, while cleaning up after class, I got a letter. No sender name, just my address written in messy handwriting. Inside, I found a single sentence. "I'm sorry for everything. I have nothing left." For a moment, I stared at the words, expecting tears. But instead, I smiled softly and whispered, "Then maybe now you finally understand." I folded the letter and placed it in my sketchbook, not as a memory, but as proof of survival. The universe doesn't forget. It listens, it waits, and when the time is right, it balances everything. That night, as the sun dipped below the ocean, I stood by the shore, letting the waves wash over my feet. The wind carried a calm I hadn't felt in years. I closed my eyes and whispered. Karma doesn't always punish. Sometimes, it heals. And in that moment, I finally felt free, not from Daniel, but from the pain he left behind. Because revenge had already done its job, and peace had taken its place months past. The chaos that once ruled my life was gone. No shouting, no lies, no broken promises, only the soft hum of quiet mornings and the rhythm of my own heartbeat. I began to rediscover who I was before the betrayal, before the pain turned me into someone else. I started painting again, not to escape but to express. My canvases filled with colors of freedom, golds, blues, and soft whites. Every brushstroke felt like a piece of my soul returning home. For the first time, I smiled without pretending. People in the town started noticing my art. One day, a gallery owner visited and asked if I'd display my work. I hesitated, old fears whispering that I wasn't enough. But then I remembered, I survived worse. If I could walk away from a love that destroyed me, I could walk into any room with pride. On the night of my first exhibition, I stood in the corner, watching strangers admire my work. Each painting told a chapter of my life: betrayal, silence, strength, rebirth. A woman stopped beside one titled "The Storm Within." She turned to me and said, "This feels like pain, but also forgiveness." I smiled gently and replied, "That's exactly what it is." Later that night, as the gallery lights dimmed, I received a message from an unknown number. It was Daniel. "I saw your art online. You've become everything I once stopped you from being. I hope you're happy." For a moment, I just stared at the screen. Then, I typed back 2 simple words. "I am." And I meant it. I turned off my phone, stepped outside, and looked at the stars, bright, endless, silent witnesses to everything I'd been through. I realized that karma wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about restoration, the universe returning what I'd lost: my dignity, my peace, my self-worth. The past didn't vanish, but it no longer hurt. Because I'd stopped chasing closure from him. And found it within myself. I took a deep breath, whispered to the night. Some endings are just beautiful beginnings in disguise. And with that, I walked away, not as the broken woman he left behind, but as the stronger one karma rebuilt. You just watched Karma's Call, where pain turns into power and betrayal meets its end. If Angelina's story touched your heart, take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Not just for her story, but for every soul who found strength through pain. Tell us in the comments. Do you believe in karma? Because sometimes the universe doesn't need your revenge, it delivers its own.